Hello everyone, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy, the Hindu News Analysis. So today is 27th May 2024 and we have a few important articles for today's discussion. So let's try to discuss all important articles one by one. Now we all knew. So before discussing all those important articles, let's try to solve yesterday given practice question. Yesterday I have given you one practice question for prelims examination. So consider the following statements about the International Court of Justice. First statement says the seat of the court is at the Peace Palace, The Hague. Yes, absolutely, this statement is correct. The seat of the International Court of Justice is located at the Peace Palace in The Hague. Second statement, of the 6 principal organs of the United Nations. Now, in fact, if you look at the United Nations, it has 6 principal organizations or principal organs. And United Nations Security Council is one such organ of the United Nations along with different other bodies. And in fact, it is only one that is located in New York, United States. Right? So it is not located in New York, United States. Yes, this statement is also correct because it is located in the Netherlands, but not in New York, but all other bodies or organs of the UN are located in the New York, United States. Third statement, the hearings of the International Court of Justice are always public. Yes, this statement is also correct. So correct answer for this question is option C, only 3. The hearings of the International Court of Justice are always public. Now, understand the International Court of Justice very briefly. So, the International Court of Justice is also known as the World Court. So, the name of the International Court of Justice is also the World Court, and it is a principal judicial organ of the United Nations. Right? So, of the 6 organs of the United Nations, the International Court of Justice is one such organ. So, it was established in the year June 1945 by the Charter of United Nations, and it started working on April 1946. The seat of the court, the International Court of Justice, is located at the Peace Palace in The Hague, Netherlands. And again, of the 6 principal organs of the United Nations, it is the only one not located in the New York, United States, and the hearings of International Court of Justice are always made public, and official language of the International Court of Justice including French and English languages. So French and English languages are the official languages of the International Court of Justice. Now today I have one more practice question for all of you. The question was, consider the following statements regarding the Gaganyaan mission. Now the first statement, GSLV Mark III, it was also called as LVM-3. Launch vehicle Mark III is LVM-3. So GSLV Mark III is also called as LVM-3. It is a 3-stage heavy lift launch vehicle and will be used to launch the Gaganyaan mission. This is the first statement. And second statement, the Gaganyaan spacecraft will be placed in a low Earth orbit once it is launched above 400 kilometers in this low Earth orbit. Now, which of the following statements given above are correct? Now, please answer this question because Gaganyaan mission is also very important, and it is expected that you may get a question this year UPSC prelims. So try to answer this question in the comment section, and the correct answer I'll be providing you in tomorrow's class. And the first very important news article that we are going to start this discussion is about a severe cyclonic storm, Rimal, makes its landfall, and Bangladesh and India, especially the state of West Bengal, have been experiencing heavy rainfall. Now we'll briefly understand about this cyclonic storm, what are the major causes, how the cyclones are formed, and what is the difference between the tropical cyclones and the temperate cyclones, and how they are being formed. So all these things we'll understand in an exam relevant manner. Now firstly, understand this particular news article very briefly. A severe cyclonic storm, the name of the cyclonic storm is Rimal, right? So this particular cyclonic storm, for example, imagine that this is Indian coast and this is Bay of Bengal, and within Bay of Bengal this Rimal cyclone has moving towards Indian state of West Bengal and the Bangladesh, and in fact it has also made a landfill in near Bangladesh. Okay, so it has made a landfall between the coasts of West Bengal and Bangladesh. So between West Bengal and Bangladesh, it has made a landfall, right? So landfall is the area where the the moisture content would be cut off from the sea, right? So it enters from sea to the land, so that is known as landfill, and this particular Remal cyclone has made a landfill between Bangladesh and West Bengal. So the storm which struck between the Sagar Island, now if you look at the Sagar Island, it is located somewhere here, right? So the storm which struck between the Sagar Island near West Bengal and Kepepara near the southwest of Mongla, Bangladesh at 8:30 p.m. on Sunday. So as a result of this cyclone making a landfall, there are a wide variety of impacts. Okay, so firstly, it has brought a lot of torrential rains. Okay, so heavy rainfall over West Bengal and Bangladesh, and then flooding homes, farmlands, and leaving the widespread destruction in the wave of this particular cyclone, because this cyclone is considered or categorized as the severe cyclonic storm. So since it is a severe cyclonic storm, it is also associated with the a huge destruction that is being caused by this particular cyclone. And in fact, if you look at the wind speeds of this particular cyclone, because see, understand that in the northern hemisphere, the cyclones are generally moved in the anti-clockwise direction, right? So they're being moved in the anti-clockwise direction, but in the southern hemisphere, these cyclones are moved in the clockwise direction, right? So since India is in the northern hemisphere, most of these tropical cyclones are moving in the anti-clockwise direction, and while they're moving in the anti-clockwise direction, so they also bring with themselves a wind. Okay, so a wind speed of this particular Remal cyclone is ranging from 110 to 120 km per hour. So it is one of the more destructive, I would say, because on its way, so it would sweep all the infrastructure, homes, and any other thing that comes in its way. So therefore, this particular Remal cyclone has resulted in a wind speed of 110 to 120 km per hour, and in fact the red alert has also been issued for heavy to very heavy rainfall for few places within the West Bengal. Because understand that because of this particular cyclone, there are torrential rainfalls or heavy rainfall taking place for a very long period of time, and that would probably lead to the flood-like situation. So this flood-like situation may lead to the other problems for the people who are living in those areas, and in fact it will lead to the loss of life and even damage to the existing infrastructure. And in this context, it necessitates deploying the NDRF forces for relief and rescue, and at the same time setting up relief camps for the people who are evacuated. Relief camps for the people who are being evacuated from the vulnerable areas. Now all these arrangements have to be made by the responsible authorities. Now understand how these tropical cyclones are actually formed. So how they are actually formed in an area. High humidity and ocean temperatures. For example, what has been happening with the global warming? So with the global warming, the sea surface temperatures have also been rising at a faster pace. Okay, so increasing sea surface temperatures are one of the factor for increasing intensity and the frequency of cyclones. Now we can say that the frequency of these cyclones increasing and the intensity of these cyclones is also significantly increasing at a rapid pace. So therefore, this sea surface temperatures due to the global warming is one factor which has been driving these cyclones. So high humidity along with the increasing ocean temperatures, which are ranging above 26 degrees Celsius, are the major contributing factors of these cyclones. Now imagine that sea surface temperatures above 26 degrees Celsius. So if temperatures are above 26 degrees Celsius, now then water starts evaporating, right? Because of a higher heat, water start evaporating from the ocean surface. And this evaporating water comes in contact with the mass of cold air, and that would result in forming these thick cloud masses above these oceans. And now a column of air pressure or column of low pressure develops at the center of this particular cyclone, right? So a winds forms around this particular eye. The center of the cyclone is known as eye, and this is a low pressure area. This is a low pressure area, right? So now around this around this eye, a column of air just circulates. Okay, so in an anti-clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere, around this eye, the column of air usually circulate. So as pressure in the central column weakens because it is a low pressure area, as I have already told you, and the pressure in the eye weakens, the speed of the wind around it further increases, and that is actually causing heavy or high speed winds across these cyclones. Okay, so cyclone is actually a large air mass, and that is rotating or rotates around the strong center of this low pressure atmosphere. Okay, so a low pressure, low atmospheric pressure area. And as I have already told you that in the northern hemisphere, these winds move in the anti-clockwise direction, right? This is anti-clockwise direction. And in the southern hemisphere, they actually move, the winds move around the eye in the clockwise direction. And in fact, these cyclones are characterized by inward spiraling winds that rotate about a zone of low pressure. So this is very briefly about cyclone, and we'll try to understand in a more detailed manner about this cyclones. So these cyclones are actually the rapid inward air circulation. So as I've already told you that there is a low pressure eye, and these cyclones are actually the rapid air circulation around this low pressure area or low pressure center, right? So there are two types of cyclones, cyclone and anticyclone. Now if you look at this cyclone, the pressure condition at the center, it is low pressure area, and there are certain anticyclones also. These anticyclones are formed over land, right? So in the higher latitudes, anticyclones can also form over the land area. However, in anticyclones, the central area or the center or the eye of the anticyclones is a high pressure area, not low pressure area. But here you can see that it is a high pressure area in tropical areas. And again, please tell me that in the northern hemisphere, cyclones actually move in an anti-clockwise direction, but in the south they move in a clockwise direction. And again, with respect to anticyclones, in the northern hemisphere they move in a clockwise direction, and in a southern hemisphere they move in a anti-clockwise direction. So that is completely opposite to the cyclones. Now how these cyclones are being classified? So if you look at the classification of cyclones, these tropical cyclones can originate between Tropic of Capricorn and Tropic of Cancer. Now if you look at the imaginary lines, that this is Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. Now these tropical cyclones very often originate between the tropics. But on the other hand, these extratropical cyclones or temperate cyclones, they originate near the polar areas, or they originate near the higher latitudes. So that is what we can say here. Now, what are the conditions which favors the formation of cyclones? So these conditions are very important for your mains examination, right? So there are certain conditions which favors the formation of cyclones. Firstly, a large sea surface temperatures above 27 degrees Celsius or 26 degrees Celsius. That was the first condition which favors the formation of the cyclones. And the second condition is a presence of Coriolis force. Now, if you look at the Coriolis force at the equator, it is almost zero. But if you go towards the poles, the Coriolis force gradually increases. So therefore, presence of Coriolis force will also impact the cyclone's formation. And after that, a small variations in the vertical wind speeds would also favors the origin of cyclone. And then there should be a pre-existing weak low pressure area, and then further the cyclone develops a strong low pressure zone at the center, and after that there is also upper divergence above the sea level system. So this is how the upper divergence actually takes place above the sea level system. And now all these conditions favors the growth or origin of any cyclone over the tropical areas. Now, how these tropical cyclones are actually named? The nodal agency or the nodal authority for looking after cyclones is the World Meteorological Organization. Now, Indian Ocean region, we have one regional center to name all the cyclones which originates in the Indian Ocean region. For example, the countries including Bangladesh, India, Maldives, Myanmar, Oman, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Thailand. So all these countries contribute to naming cyclones that occur within this particular region. Okay. Now different names for the cyclones so far given. For example, typhoons. So where they originate? So these typhoons originate in Southeast Asia and China, firstly. Secondly, we also knew about hurricanes. These hurricanes originate in North Atlantic and Eastern Pacific near USA. And then tornadoes. So the tornadoes originate in West Africa and Southern USA. And willy willies, they originate in the northwest of Australia, and tropical cyclones Southwest Pacific and Indian Ocean. So this is how there are different types of tropical cyclones across the globe. Now if you look at the cyclones in India, there are certain biannual cyclone season. Okay, so the cyclone season actually from March to May and then October to December. So every year we have two cyclone seasons. One was from March to May and the other is from October to December. And recently also we have some cyclones, for example cyclone Taukte, cyclone Vayu, Nisarga and Mekanu in Arabian Sea, and cyclone Asani, Amphan, Fani, Nivar, Bulbul, Titli, Yas and Sitrang in Bay of Bengal, right? So I hope you have understood all details about these tropical cyclones. Okay, so how they originate and how they are being named, etc. Now the other important article is with respect to the International Criminal Court. Now recent times International Criminal Court is very often in use because of two instances. One was Ukraine Russia war, and International Criminal Court issuing an arrest warrant against Russian President Vladimir Putin, and secondly the Hamas-Israel conflict. So because of these two reasons, the International Criminal Court is very often in news. Now we'll briefly understand the context of this International Criminal Court. Now International Criminal Court prosecutor, so one of the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, his name was Karim Khan, has requested that arrest warrant for 5 individuals involved in Gaza conflict. Okay, so he requested the arrest warrant for 5 individuals who are involved in this Gaza conflict between Hamas and Israel. So that has resulted in a humanitarian crisis at a large scale in the Middle East. So who are those 5 individuals? So the 5 individuals including Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and several other Hamas leaders, because they are responsible for this humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. And in fact, this significant move actually raises a lot of questions. about the legal basis. I mean, whether the International Criminal Court has any legal basis to arrest the Prime Minister of a country. Okay, so and the implications in case of any legal action being taken on the directions of the International Criminal Court, and what is the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court on these countries and heads of the countries, and also on the countries which never signed this Rome Statute, because Rome Statute had provided for the establishment of the International Criminal Court, right? Now there are a lot of countries. For example, I can say that India as a country is not signatory to the Rome Statute. Israel is also not signatory to the Rome Statute. So what about the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, and what is the legal basis of the International Criminal Court with respect to these issues is what we have to understand. Now, first and foremost, the Rome Statute led to the foundation of the International Criminal Court, because I've already told you that International Criminal Court was established by this particular Rome Statute. And what was the objective of establishing International Criminal Court? So the basic aim was to address grave international crimes. So those grave international crimes including genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity. So all these are the crimes which are being committed against the humanity. And in fact, the International Criminal Court focuses on individual criminal responsibility, but not state or group culpability. Okay, so it will not hold the entire nation accountable. Rather, it holds the individuals who have committed these crimes accountable. And in fact, in recent times, there were also allegations against the Hamas and Israel. So Hamas-Israel conflict took place, and there were also allegations against both Hamas and Israel. And in fact, the prosecutor at the International Court of Justice alleged that the war crimes and the crimes against humanity by Hamas, including murder, rape, torture, and then from the Israeli side also. So he accused Israel of committing those war crimes, such as persecution of minorities and extermination of the people from the country. So all those crimes were committed by both Hamas and Israel. So this is what the International Criminal Court has been, the prosecutor has been alleging. However, if you look at certain jurisdictional precedents of the International Criminal Court, because see, Israel is not a member or not a signatory to this Rome Statute. So if it is not a signatory to the Rome Statute, how can the International Criminal Court can actually proceed on that? And what is the legal basis for the International Criminal Court to proceed on this? So that is the major question, coming here. So in fact, the International Criminal Court can exercise the jurisdiction if crimes occur in the territory of a state party. For example, I can say that Bangladesh has ratified this Rome Statute. So therefore, if any crimes committed in the territory of Bangladesh, that comes under the jurisdiction of International Criminal Court. So therefore, if a crime, for example, Palestine is a member to the International Criminal Court, but now the Israeli state has committed violence and committed war crimes in Palestine. Okay, so therefore, it is being argued that Israel, since it has committed crimes, war crimes in Palestinian territory, and Palestine is a member of International Criminal Court, and therefore Israel should be made accountable. And in fact, similar precedents include International Criminal Court actions in Bangladesh, Myanmar, and the arrest warrant against the Vladimir Putin. Okay, so International Criminal Court has also issued arrest warrant against Vladimir Putin. Now, what will be the implications of arrest warrants? Now, if you look at the implications, a state party to the Rome Statute. Now, if a state is party to the Rome Statute, then the International Criminal Court will have the legal basis and jurisdiction to arrest any person or punish people who have committed the war crimes. And those state parties are also obligated to cooperate with the International Criminal Court because they are signatory to this Rome Statute. And cooperation with the International Criminal Court by the state parties include arresting individuals with ICC warrants, that for example, imagine a person A. Okay, so imagine a person A. So he had committed a war crime. Okay, so this person had committed a war crime. So therefore, ICC issues an arrest warrant against that particular person. Okay, so if ICC issued an arrest warrant against that particular person, countries which ought to cooperate have to arrest that particular person. And in fact, there are also a lot of past instances also. For example, arrest of Omar al-Bashir in South Africa. So that has been highlighting the challenges in the enforcement, but it also underscores the legal obligations for member states. And after that, the international legal dynamics should also be understood here. Okay, so when I say the international legal dynamics, the International Criminal Court issuing these arrest warrants against the prominent figures of this Gaza conflict actually tests the international law's efficiency, how efficient the international law is arresting these influential persons. Now, because when you look at the international law, we very often say that international law is ineffective. And therefore, ICC issuing such arrest warrants against influential persons have been testing the international law's efficacy. And this action emphasizes on accountability and the rule of law. So that has been asserting that individuals cannot commit the international crimes without punishment, okay, without impunity. Now, what will be the broader impact and the significance of this International Criminal Court and its proactive role in arresting or punishing persons with who have committed genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity? The International Criminal Court's actions actually reinforce the importance of international legal standards and the pursuit of justice for grave crimes. So there is no doubt that there should be an international legal standards that must be established, and ICC in fact pitching for that, and at the same time pursuit of justice for grave crimes also. And this actually signals that accountability is crucial and that international community is watching. And after that, there should be separate proceedings. Now, for example, it only punishes individuals. It only tries the individuals, but not state. But in the case of Israel committing war crimes against Gaza Strip, now state is being involved. So therefore, there are separate proceedings at the International Court of Justice. Okay, so we are talking about now there are separate proceedings with respect to the International Court of Justice. So this separate proceedings focuses on states' responsibility, as seen in the case of South Africa case against Israel for committing these genocide, of committing war crimes. And these proceedings are distinct from the International Court of Justice focus on individual criminal responsibility. Now, International Court of Justice focuses on the state, and on the other hand, the International Criminal Court only emphasizes on individuals who have committed these grave crimes. And next, a very important article is with respect to the Pradhan Mantri Jan Man Yojana. Okay, so what exactly is this Jan Man Yojana? So Pradhan Mantri Janjati Adivasi Nyaya Maha Abhiyan is Jan Man Yojana. So this Jan Man scheme was recently introduced by the Union government for the holistic development of scheduled tribes, especially the particularly vulnerable tribal groups in India. I repeat that the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan is a Pradhan Mantri Janjati Adivasi Nyaya Maha Abhiyan. So this particular scheme was launched to improve the socio-economic conditions of the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, right? So it will improve the economic conditions of particularly vulnerable tribal groups. However, there are a lot of challenges which still remaining in the implementation, especially in the registration process via a mobile app. And it also hinders, in fact it also hinders the scheme's effectiveness and accessibility also, right? So this particular Janman program, yes, the intention of the Janman program is very good. Even though it has the right intention, it has been suffering with a lot of challenges while implementation, especially with respect to registration of the eligible beneficiaries through the mobile application, because most of these tribal peoples don't know how to use these mobile applications, and thereby these all challenges come together. They have been hindering the effectiveness and accessibility of this Janman Yojana program. And what are those major challenges in the registration and implementation of the eligible beneficiaries? So first and foremost is the drawbacks or the shortcomings with the mobile app usage. For example, the Aavas Plus app is actually intended to register the particularly vulnerable tribal group households for housing scheme, right? So this will provide housing, a safe, affordable housing for the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, but they have to register themselves in the Aavas Plus app. And in fact, in recent times, what was happening is there was a large scale and widespread deletion of this Manrega job codes and even the discrepancies, so that are between the village list. Okay, so there are a lot of discrepancies in the app and even the Manrega management system. So this has been creating a lot of confusion and even the ineligibility issues also. Okay, so there is no adequate data available. Even if there is a data available, the data is creating a lot of confusion. One reason was widespread deletion of these Manrega job codes and discrepancies in the existing data. So all these have been creating new challenges such as ineligibility issues and confusion among the eligible and genuine beneficiaries. And after that, there is also a data mismanagement from the government side. Okay, so see, when there is a mismanagement of data, that impacts the registration process that has to be undertaken as part of this PM Janman program. So therefore, there is a mismanagement of the data by the government, and in fact the data mismanagement mostly in between the details which already available and the Aadhaar records of the eligible beneficiaries. Now when there is a mismanagement of data, it very often leads to the wrongful deletions of the genuine and eligible beneficiaries and even the registration failures. So there are high registration failures among these eligible beneficiaries, and that is also a cause of concern. And after that, there are also some network issues and the complexity, because see, so everything is being digitalized, and the particularly vulnerable tribal groups are also made to register themselves through these mobile applications. And that has been, for example, these apps require the geotagging functions. Okay, so in order to weed out the ghost beneficiaries or beneficiaries who are not genuine, so this geotagging is actually made mandatory, and this geotagging actually requires the internet access. And therefore, since there is a lack of internet access, they have been facing network issues and causing widespread chaos during the registration process. And in fact, the PM Janman program aims to provide all these services that you are looking here to the eligible tribal groups, especially the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, especially Sabka Pakka Ghar, Har Ghar, Nal Se Jal, all those schemes. And after that, there is also lack of inclusivity and accessibility challenges for the people also. Okay, so the problem is that there is a lack of PVTG specific data available with the government. So there is no PVTG specific information that is already available with the government. Now when we don't have any proper data with respect to the PVTGs, so that actually results in either delaying the registrations or failure of the existing registrations. And in fact, the local officials have been demanding more and more certificates from the PVTGs. Now, the process becomes more and more cumbersome because when the local officials, because lack of data, they are demanding more certificates. So since the PVTGs do not have adequate awareness about all these records and certification, so there are chance that most of these PVTGs are excluded from the benefits of PM Janman Yojana. Okay, so that should not happen. Every eligible beneficiary should be given the benefits of this particular scheme. And even in order to ensure the financial inclusion, India Post Payments Bank is being launched. Okay, so this ensures the last mile connectivity. Along with the last mile connectivity, so it also ensures the financial inclusion of the people, right? So that is the objective of India Post Payment Bank, because now banks are not present in every village, but in every village you can find these post offices. So people can easily open and access bank accounts in this India Post Payment Banks, and then that would result in a wave of financial inclusion. So despite these India Post Payment Banks were established to enhance the financial inclusion, so this India Post Payment Bank is not listed in the app's banking options. Okay, so this omission of India Post Payment Banks complicates the financial transactions for the PVTG households in a very remote and rural areas, and that is another major challenge. And after that, there is a lack of proper community engagement or proactive community engagement initiatives in this PM Jandan program. So that has also hampering the program's overall reach and impact. Now see, at the grassroots level, when you have launched any program, for the successful implementation of such programs, the proactive engagement or proactive participation of people is very, very important. Okay, so when a community is being engaged, there is a high probability of success of that particular scheme or an initiative. So therefore, in this context, Gram Sabhas can be involved to ensure this proactive community engagement. And we can also reinstate the deleted job codes. So that could improve the effectiveness of the PM Janman program. Now in this context, how can we ensure the effectiveness of this particular PM Janman program? So a set of measures that can be undertaken to ensure the effectiveness of PM Janman program. So first and foremost, we should focus on simplifying the registration process for the PVTGs under this particular program. So why don't we simplify the process? Now, when we simplify the process, we will be able to identify the genuine beneficiaries. We are benefiting most of the PVTGs, and we are also minimizing the exclusion errors also. We are not excluding any tribal people due to lack of data or absence of data. And at the same time, the app must be updated with the India Post Payments Bank that was excluded or omitted from the app. And after that, we should also focus on addressing certain technical issues. So that will ensure a better participation of the PVTGs. And after that, we should focus on accurate data collection and alignment with the existing records for the success of this particular program. And followed by that, there are certain proactive measures that must be undertaken. So those proactive measures include reinstating deleted job cards. So under Manrega, job cards are being issued, and there are a lot of job cards being deleted, and we must reinstate this deleted job cards. And apart from that, we should also ensure proper guidance for the registrations without Aadhaar for the people, and providing clear instructions within the app, and can also mitigate many challenges which are being faced by the PVTGs. So we should also focus on enhancing the inclusivity. So any scheme must be more inclusive, and it include all PVTGs. So we have to provide benefits of this particular scheme to all eligible beneficiaries, and therefore recognizing the unique needs of the PVTGs, and then tailoring this particular app as per the needs of the PVTGs is very, very important. Okay, so that could foster a more inclusive, equitable implementation of the housing scheme for the PVTGs under PM Janman program. So next, a very important article is with respect to, you know, wait. Two minutes. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for that. Okay, so this is the next article that we are going to discuss, is that so India records a trade deficit with 9 out of 10 trading partners in 23-24. Okay, so India doing external trade with a lot of countries. Now you can clearly see that the countries with which we have the trade deficit. Okay, so except US, with all other top 10 trading partners, we have the trade deficit. Now I'll tell you what exactly is this trade deficit. Now trade deficit actually means that the imports are more than our exports. Imports are more than our exports, and that creates a trade deficit. Okay, so trade surplus, what does trade surplus means? Trade surplus actually involves we export more than we import. Okay, so less import and more exports, so that is known as trade surplus. Now with which countries we have trade surplus? Out of these top 10 countries, only US we have trade surplus. That means to only US we have been exporting more and importing less. But on the other hand, all other countries we have a trade deficit. So that means we are importing more rather than we are exporting to those countries. Okay, so that is trade deficit. Now this article says that India records a trade deficit with 9 out of top 10 trading partners in 23-24. Okay, so India recorded a trade deficit, so that is a difference between imports and exports, with 9 out of top 10 trading partners. So those includes China, Russia, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, South Korea, UAE, Hong Kong and Singapore. With all those countries we have registered a trade deficit. Okay, so in fact, if you look at the trade deficit with China, it is huge, $85 billion of trade deficit. And with Russia we have 57 billion, and Korea we have 14 billion, and then Hong Kong 12 billion, as against in 23-24 83.2 billion, 43 billion, 14.57 billion. So this is how we have the trade deficit with a number of other countries. And in fact, earlier last 2 years मुलायम 2 मिनट आ रहा हूँ, 2 मिनट आ रहा हूँ. So India has emerged as a largest trading partner of 118 billion. So this was a two-way commerce 23-24. So ending past the US. Okay, so the bilateral trade between India and US was stood at 118 billion. So in 23-24. So Washington was the top trading partner of New Delhi during the 21 and 22. So in fact, US was the largest trade partner for us, okay, earlier times, but now China has exceeded and China has become the top trading partner. So India has free trade agreements with different other countries. For example, we have free trade agreement with Singapore, UAE, Korea and Indonesia. So as part of this Asian bloc. So India has a trade surplus of 36.74 billion. So with the US in 23-24. So America was one of the few countries with which India has this trade surplus. Okay, so so overall trade deficit is 238.3 billion as against 264 billion in the previous year. So that means the trade deficit has been declining. Okay, so deficit will not always bad, okay, for any country, because if we importing the raw materials, we cannot consider the trade deficit as a bad thing. So therefore, in this context, the rising trade deficit can actually cause a lot of challenges. They include currency to depreciate because of the foreign currency is needed for the import. So the depreciation will also makes imports more expensive, and that would also worsen the deficit of this. Okay, that's all.